Part 1. Lee Kuan Yew's personal background and leadership style. 1. Lee Kuan Yew's family and early life. Lee Kuan Yew was born into a wealthy Chinese family in Singapore in 1923. His ancestral home was Meishan, Guangdong. His family is quite influential in Singapore's Chinese society. The family's wealthy background allowed Lee Kuan Yew to receive a Western education since childhood. When Lee Kuan Yew was born, Singapore was a British colony, and the city was full of a blend of Eastern and Western cultures. Lee Kuan Yew's grandfather came to Singapore as early as the late 19th century. The family was mainly engaged in trade and commerce and lived a relatively prosperous life. Lee Kuan Yew's family background deeply affected his worldview. He has lived in a multicultural environment since he was a child and is proficient in English, Chinese and Malay, which enables him to transcend language and cultural barriers and understand the needs and ideas of different ethnic groups. This early experience of cross-cultural communication became an important asset in his future political career. At home, Lee Kuan Yew's parents attached great importance to education. His father was a lawyer with a deep understanding of law and business, which had a great influence on Lee Kuan Yew's growth. His mother was the backbone of the family and taught Lee Kuan Yew the values of hard work, thrift and perseverance. Lee Kuan Yew showed strong independent thinking ability and competitiveness since childhood, which was reflected in his later leadership style. 2. Learning experience and thinking shaping. At Cambridge University. Lee Kuan Yew's academic achievements showed early, and he had already performed very well while studying at Raffles Institution in Singapore. After the Second World War, Lee Kuan Yew got the opportunity to study in the UK. In 1946, he entered the London School of Economics and later transferred to Cambridge University to study law. The Cambridge experience had a profound impact on Lee Kuan Yew's thinking. First of all, the British colonial legal system and political thought inspired Lee Kuan Yew's profound thinking on power and governance. While at Cambridge, he not only studied law, but also came into contact with some radical political ideas, such as socialism and liberalism. Although he did not fully accept these ideas later, they gave him a better understanding of colonial rule and national independence. Deep understanding. Lee Kuan Yew did very well during his studies at Cambridge. He graduated with a first-class honors degree, which not only proved his talent in the legal field, but also demonstrated his diligence and perseverance. During this period, he began to think about how to use law and politics to improve society, especially how to promote national independence and social change under the colonial system. 3. Early political awakening and anti-colonial struggle. Lee Kuan Yew's political awakening was closely related to his witnessing Singapore's colonial conditions. After the war, Singapore experienced economic decline, social unrest, and heightened tensions between the Chinese and Malays. Lee Kuan Yew realized that the colonial government's policies could not meet the needs of the Singaporean people, and he gradually developed a desire to participate in politics and fight for national independence. Lee Kuan Yew began his political career as a legal advisor against British colonial rule. He provided legal aid to trade unions and anti-colonial organizations, notably in the postal workers' strike of 1952, where he successfully won a partial victory for the workers. This experience made him famous in left-wing political circles and made him realize the importance of organizing trade unions and mobilizing the masses. In 1954, Lee Kuan Yew and a group of like-minded young people co-founded the People's Action Party, PAP, and established the party's anti-colonial and independent political stance. Lee Kuan Yew held an important role within the party and gradually demonstrated his outstanding leadership capabilities. He combined some elements of Western democratic politics with the organizational style of the Chinese Communist movement to create a unique political style. 4. Lee Kuan Yew's leadership style and decision-making. Thinking. Lee Kuan Yew's leadership style can be described as pragmatic, firm and uncompromising. He pays great attention to practical results rather than ideological constraints. This pragmatic leadership style stems from his deep understanding of Singapore's unique situation. He believes that a small country lacking natural resources must rely on good governance, innovative policies and global thinking to survive and prosper. In order to achieve this goal, he has demonstrated a high degree of decision-making and execution ability in the leadership process. 1. Goal-oriented decision-making. Lee Kuan Yew was never afraid to take drastic measures to achieve what he believed to be good for the country. He has been criticized at times as a dictator, particularly for restricting free speech and suppressing political opposition. But he firmly believes that these measures are necessary to ensure Singapore's stability and competitiveness on the international stage. Under his leadership, Singapore established a government system with efficiency and integrity at its core. Lee Kuan Yew was very good at formulating long-term strategic plans. He regarded governing the country as a long-term game rather than a short-term political game. Under his leadership, the government has maintained a clear vision of the country's future and has continually adapted policies to respond to changes at home and abroad. For example, he vigorously improved national quality and social cohesion through education and housing reforms, while promoting economic diversification and industrial upgrading. 2. In compromising political skills. Lee Kuan Yew showed strong tactics in political struggles. He tolerated no challenges that threatened the stability of the country or his personal authority. Especially in the early days of independence, he took coercive measures to combat political opposition, suppress communist forces, and restrict freedom of speech and press through legislation and security bills. Although these practices are quite controversial in democratic countries, he firmly believes that they are necessary measures to maintain the stability and development of the country. Lee Kuan Yew's political style emphasized order and discipline. He believed that an effective country must have a strong government to maintain social order and economic development. In his view, chaotic democracy will lead to the decline of the country, while strong leadership is the key to promoting national progress. 3. The balance between globalization and nationalism. Although Lee Kuan Yew pursued tough governance policies at home, he showed great flexibility on the international stage. He realized that Singapore needed to integrate into the global economy to survive, so he adopted a global economic policy and actively attracted foreign investment and technology. At the same time, he also carefully protected Singapore's sovereignty and national identity to avoid becoming a victim in the game between great powers. Lee Kuan Yew's understanding of globalization was very pragmatic. He knew that Singapore needed to benefit from globalization, so he actively promoted Singapore to become a center of global trade and finance. He promoted Singapore's economic development through economic cooperation with Western countries, especially the United States, and Asian countries, such as Japan and South Korea. At the same time, he also ensured that Singapore maintained its independence in culture and policies and avoided complete assimilation into Western culture and values. 5. Conclusion. Lee Kuan Yew's personal background, educational experience and early political awakening formed his unique leadership style. He combined Western legal and political concepts with Asian collectivism and social control methods to create a unique governance model in Singapore. Although his leadership style is controversial, it is undeniable that he transformed Singapore from a neglected former colony into a global economic and financial center through strong decision-making and determined execution. This part lays the foundation for the following discussion. How Lee Kuan Yew used his personal background and thinking to shape Singapore's economic and social reforms will continue to be explored in subsequent chapters.